Embroidery floss and how best to use it can be really confusing when you're first getting started with embroidery. So I'm going to be going over some of the tips and tricks that I wish that I knew when I was first getting started with embroidery, and that I hope will be helpful to you to make it a little bit less complex and demystify it just a touch. There are a lot of different brands of embroidery floss and supplies out there, but one of the most common ones that you are going to see if you walk into a craft store is DMC, and their 6-strand embroidery floss is going to come on a skein just like this. That's 8 meters. Now, how you store your thread is just as individual as how you like your coffee. Some people keep them like this, some people wind them on other spools, some people will wind them on little clothes hangers that I think is really cute. For me, I like to use bobbins. I think it's the easiest way to compact the thread and to organize it. And I actually get even a little bit more specific than this. When I first started, I bought a pack of plastic bobbins for my thread. I am in the very slow process of converting these over to paper because I really don't like plastic very much. It's not very grippy on the thread. As you can see, it kind of loses it a little bit no matter how I wind it. The paper ones, though they can get flimsier with use, really grip your thread on here. A lot of people have concerns with winding thread on bobbins, with it kind of causing the thread to kink. I haven't really found any issue with that, and the kind of embroidery that I do, the more that I kind of handle it, the more the thread straightens out. So this is a piece that I am currently using for a project and took off a bobbin, and I have no real issues with it remaining straight or anything like that. When I got started with embroidery, I was so excited. I went to the store, I bought all of these threads, I wound them on some plastic bobbins, and then I blazed forward with my projects. The problem is I never wrote down the numbers for any of those colors. If you're trying to keep your inventory organized, write down the number codes for all of the colors that you wind onto bobbins. Now when it comes time to wind your skeins, here's a trick that I didn't know in the beginning, and that is how to keep it from tangling. If you noticed, you've got a little wrap at the top and then a little wrap at the bottom that has the number code. If you grab the tail of thread from the bottom with the number code and pull from there, your spool is so much less likely to tangle. Embroidery floss is different from standard thread in that a lot of it comes in a 6-strand bundle just like this. Now you can absolutely stitch with all 6 strands. This comes down to whatever the pattern or project you're working on depends upon. For me, I stitch in single strands. So what I used to do to separate my thread was I used to pull it apart like this. It tangles really easily. You have to hold a part of it in your mouth. It's really inefficient. So when I learned this easy way to separate out a single strand, it really changed the game for me. So if I separate out one strand just like this, grab it, pinch where the rest of it meets, and then you just pull nice and slow. If you go too fast, it will tangle. You can easily pull out one thread just like this, and then with your remaining thread, just smooth it out, and it goes right back to normal like that. You can do this method with 2 strands. I've had success with that. You got to go a lot slower. If you're trying to separate out more than that, it gets a little dicey, and then at that point you do kind of have to do the pull apart method. But if you're just trying to get out one at a time and pull the whole thing apart, this is an easy way to do that. When it comes to securing your thread on the back of your piece, there's a lot of different ways to do that. Me personally, I used to always tie a knot at the end of my thread, but using single strand, those knots are really small. It takes extra time. So in came for me the quilter's knot. So in order to do this, it is very simple. You're going to thread your needle, and then I pinch down my thread and the tail, and then you're going to get the end of your thread here and pinch the tiniest bit of it on the needle. Pinch it on just like that. Then you're going to wrap your thread 1, 2, 3 around the needle. Is usually more than enough when I'm using single strand. You could probably even use less if you're using more strands. Pinch where you have that wrapped, and then you are going to pull it down your thread nice and slow. If you go too fast, sometimes it knots. And then once you do that, you have a perfect little knot at the end of your thread, nice and quick.